I will call a meeting to order, the time being 5 p.m. and ask if there's a disclosure of interest. As there is none, we have a resolution to adopt the agenda as presented. It's been moved and seconded. Any additions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Our first deputation or only deputation of the evening is the nuclear fuel waste, and Wendy O'Connor is making the presentation. Oh, okay, Dodie as well. All righty. So we'll leave it up to you.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks for having us. You last saw Dodie and myself presenting, I believe, in 2019.
I think you're gonna have to.
We'll wait for a second until the.
I think also it would be almost better to sit there because you have to speak in here, or the people at home can't hear you.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, just push the button so it's green, and that means the microphone is working, or that home listener will not hear anything.
Yeah, so as I was saying, you last saw Dodie. Yeah, no. You last saw Dodie and myself in 2019 when we presented to the council that was sitting at that time. I am a volunteer with We the Nuclear Free North, and Dodie is with Environment North as their nuclear lead. In the time we have today, we're going to present mostly on the dangers of transporting nuclear fuel waste through Oliver Bay Punj by road and rail as proposed by the nuclear industry. We feel the matter has some urgency.
Sorry. So, okay, I want to make no assumptions. I want to make sure you're quite clear on what the three different types of waste are. This is a cross section of a CANDU nuclear reactor. And so you see that fellow there, and in his room, he has desks and tabletops and mops and brooms and stuff like that. And those items would be under the category of low-level waste. Okay, so that's the first type of waste. The second type of waste is the intermediate level waste. That includes the steam generator, steam turbine, electrical generator, the big mechanics or the big mechanical pieces, because they're exposed to high levels of radioactivity. And what the circle, the orange circle in the middle there, that's wrapped around the core of the reactor, and that's where you get the high-level waste. The image at the top there on the right-hand side in the square is of a nuclear fuel bundle. It's made up of zircaloy tubes filled with uranium dioxide 235, 238, and these bundles are in the core of the reactor. And it's these high-level bundles that we're concerned about, and the transportation into Northwestern Ontario and to be put into a deep geological repository. So next. These are the locations of the nuclear reactor sites. So the waste will be, the issue that we have in this slide is distance. So it will be coming from as far as Point Lepreau, number 9 in New Brunswick, Gentilly 1 and 2, that's 7 and 8 in Quebec. And 6 is Chalk River, 4, 5 is Pickering and Darlington, 2, 3 is Douglas and Bruce, and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 make up about 92% of the waste that will be transported. I say 92% because it used to be 90, because number 1, which is Pinawa in Manitoba and Whiteshell, that is now a decommissioned research nuclear reactor. And so the low-level waste that I just mentioned are going to be coming through, to rest in Chalk River, number 6. And the intermediate waste is already coming through to number 6. And what you should know is that this whole project is not going to be an issue for you in 2040. It may be in a couple of years, because from Pinawa, there will be between 40 and 44 shipments of the high-level waste. Those are the nuclear fuel bundles from that reactor site. So you need to bear that in mind. Next. Okay, this is an image of the dry storage containers that most of the waste is in now. The waste can be in these for a minimum of 60 years. And so this waste has come out of the reactor into the cooling pools and now into these dry storage containers. These are called superloads. They weigh 100 tons. They carried 384 used fuel bundles. And the reason why I'm showing you this will come up in the next slide, because this is what's going to go on the trains. Next. Okay, so their original plan in their documents was to transport by truck, which is on the transport truck, which is in the top left-hand corner. That would work out to about 2 or 3 per day, transport trucks coming through Oliver Papoonge over a 50-year period. Their second option now is to do a combination of transport truck and train. And so in the bottom, circled in red, they show you these 22 dry storage container shipments per year. That's about 1 train every 2.5 weeks. They say here 14 packages. So those super loads that I showed you, carrying each 384 fuel bundles, there'll be 14 of those on each train. Jackie Jack, in the last presentation that I was at that she attended, she said that there may be 1 train per week. That will give you a total of 5,376 radioactive used nuclear fuel bundles coming through Oliver Papoonge by train over a 50-year period. Next. Okay, this simply shows you the route, the rail route. It shows you the population, small and large, that the train will be coming through, and where it is coming through by land and by near the Great Lakes or Lake Superior. Next. This shows you the highway routes that they're going to take coming from out of province. They'll take the northern routes coming from southern Ontario, because as I said, 92% will be coming from there. They will probably and they're more likely taking the southern route. And look at the problem there. It's right along the Great Lakes. And so if there is a derailment, or, you know, where the trains are by the Great Lakes, but here, if there are truck accidents and something rolls down an embankment into one of the bays on any of the Great Lakes, then we have a problem with containment and the time it will take to get help. Next. This is where the other site, the proposed site is. You just heard that they did vote. This is South Bruce. It has about 54% of all of the waste. It's a huge, internationally, a huge site, but they don't have a train coming from their site. So they're going to have to, if the waste comes to Northwestern Ontario, they're going to have to go intermodal. That means the red line on the left, they're going to have to go by truck down to Godrich. Then at Godrich, there's a transfer point. They're going to transfer those super loads, because that's what will be on the going onto the trains. But so the super load will be on the truck, then it'll be transferred onto the train. It'll go through those high density populations, that whole corridor that all of you probably know if you visit your kids in Southern Ontario. And then it would be marshaled again in Vaughan and transferred up to Northwestern Ontario. Every transfer point has a risk. Next. This is self-explanatory. This happens to us all the time. Next. These are 3 cross sections of the containers. The first one they say is certified. I'll go through that in just a second about what we think of their certification. That's the used fuel transportation package, UFTP, that will go on the trucks. The super load, those are those big white containers that you see that's in the middle there. They weigh 100 tons, don't forget the weight. And the basket transportation package will be transferring the used fuel bundles from out of province, and they're a bit lighter. Next. Okay, so these are the tests, and if there's anything that you come away with tonight, I hope it's some comment or thinking about these tests. There are 4 of them. The free drop test and the puncture test all are supposedly used fuel transportation packages. That's what they say in their write-up. They have the UFTP falling 30 feet. That's 3 times the size of this ceiling down onto a concrete pad, a smooth surface. That's their free drop test. Their puncture test has that same UFTP dropping just 1 meter, which is nothing, 3-4 feet, onto a 6-inch diameter piece of steel bar. Now, all of you know the Canadian Shield, and if something is going down a rocky embankment along the coastline, I think that this puncture test doesn't have any weight whatsoever. I call them weenie inadequate tests. The thermal test is only for 30 minutes, totally inadequate. To get into Lac Megantic, it took them 24 hours to get in there because of the fire. The immersion test, again, we think totally inadequate. It goes down 50 and to 650 feet, but look at the time period. It's 8 hours. They are not going to even have their machinery up here to get anything out of the water in an 8-hour period. Unlikely. These tests, by the way, were not done by NWMO. They are refusing to do tests. That's what they've told us. They said that these are adequate tests. These tests were done 1980s, I think it's 1984, by OPG and by Ontario Hydro. And to top it off, these tests, the first and the second on the left, were done using 1/7 scale models and 1/2 scale models. The tests on the right were only done using computer modeling. And so there has never been a full-scale test done, and they are not going to do it, according to Ulf Stammer, who is one of the heads of transportation. And you can check with him and CNSC. Okay, next. Okay, the used fuel pellets, what you should know about this is they always say that they're solid, and they actually have told people, well, they can just be kind of scooped up and taken away. Where in fact, what you have to realize is that at the beginning, they're solid going into the zircaloy tubes. But once they've gone through 10 to 18 months of nuclear fission, these are at the microscopic level, the pellets are embrittled, and at the macroscopic level, the pellet is fragmented into 10 to 15 pieces. Okay, so nuclear fission does have an impact on these pellets. And so again, you have this, a breach of containment in water or in land. What are you looking at if you're first response? Next. Northwestern Ontario, over the past 60 years, has used coal in the past, hydroelectric, which is water-based electricity, and now we have biomass, solar, and wind. We have never, and it's very NIMBY for me to say, but we have never been dependent on nuclear-generated electricity, and it's not likely that we ever will be. The gates are open, so to speak, at Wawa, and they say that there can be a transmission of nuclear through, but the waste that is that's already collected for the past 60 years has been waste generated to give Southern Ontario and Eastern their electricity, not ours. And in the future, all electricity, according to OPG, comes from the closest source of energy. So, these lights are powered by Kekebeka Falls and Silver Falls. Next. Liability and insurance. This is homework. I love, throwing that out as a former teacher. Go home and check your home insurance and property insurance papers tonight, so it doesn't go out of your mind. Check under loss and damage, and you are going to find that not one of you is covered for nuclear. There's no nuclear compensation for a nuclear contamination due to a nuclear accident. I've been in touch with all the companies, and you're not covered. And I don't know how the municipality is covered if there is an accident on 102 or 1117. So check that out. There is the Nuclear Liability and Compensation Act. That's going to take a lot of time to get through. And in the meantime, the coverage isn't available. Okay, next. And this is Wendy's last.
Got to remember to push my button there. Yeah, a great many municipalities and First Nations in Northwestern Ontario, both along the transportation route and in the watershed of the potential project, are quite concerned about this, and some have passed resolutions either to express their concern to other level of government and the NWMO, or to oppose this project. So there is a sample resolution in your agenda package. We request that you consider making a resolution. The The purpose of these resolutions really is to or to express regional opposition to this project if you're concerned about the safety. And the overall theme of our presentations is that the nuclear industry is not upfront about the risks of this potential project. They tout the benefits because they are the industry. So they're not necessarily working in the public interest, they're working in the industry interest. And we welcome your questions.
That if you wish to hear the other side, the nuclear waste argument has offered the presentation to us in the future as well. And thank you very much for your listen to myself. But I do thank you for coming this evening, and we will look at this and decide in the future what we would plan to do, ask administration for a report within the next few months. Okay, thank you very much for coming today and for all this information.
And we have two sites there, Environment North and We the Nuclear. So if you want to get a hold of us or ask any other questions, we're more than happy to help.
Certainly.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a resolution approving the minutes of the council meeting held on October the 30th. It's been moved and seconded. Were there any errors or omissions on those minutes? Page 13 to 27. If not, I will again, we have the resolution. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Any discussion on any items on these minutes? Councillor Peacock?
Thank you. With regard to the budget variance report, I did get some answers from Wayne and John, and we'll be trying to set something up to discuss a few further questions that I had. But as far as the agreements, insurance, and identification, indemnification policy, on the bottom page of 16, it says, following the discussion, it was noted that agreements should be reviewed to ensure internal consistency. At the last meeting, I did express my concern and would like it included in the policies that it indicate that no alcohol is to be served after 1. And another question that I did have was with regard to rentals. Say council gives an organization that's serving liquor the hall at no charge, or there's a funeral and they have asked to have a bartender. Who is covering the insurance for that? Do they have to get their own, even though we don't charge for the hall? Would they be required to get their own insurance for liquor purposes? Just a question I had, didn't know if there was an answer as well. Is there still a beer gardens at the Norwest? And who has the insurance for that? And would there be a fine issued, or how do we deal with if someone brings alcohol into a facility that they weren't, and it wasn't included in their rental form that they were going to be requiring a bartender, and yet they do kind of like a BYOB. I know what's been done before, so just wondered how we handled that. So
Okay.
just a few further questions I had with regard to the hall rental.
I'm sure that we'll get the answers then at a future meeting. Okay? Yes, Councillor Viss.
Yes, just one question on deposit returns. We were supposed to have a resolution to support for the next council meeting. I don't see it on the agenda. It is in there? Thank you.
Anything else? Any other questions on that meeting? No? Okay. First item we have under reports of municipal officers is the bylaw enforcement report on page 28. The bylaw enforcement officer is here. If there's any questions on the report, I'm sure he'll have an answer for us. Is there any questions or concerns about any of the items on the report? As there is none, do you have anything further for us, Larry?
The property standards one, the building close to the property line. I spoke to the planning department and the planner advised me that the house next door that's doing the renovations does in fact have a building permit. The shed has been there a while, the shed in question on next to the neighbor's fence. It's not quite 3 feet, but it's close. The complainant was concerned that the neighbor that's doing the renovations, his boat was leaning on the fence. And when you look out of his side door, it looks like the boat is on the fence, but the boat is actually like 3 feet away. And when I showed the complainant that, he had no issue.
Any other questions of the bylaw enforcement officer? As there is none, thank you very much.
Have a nice evening. Thank you.
Thank you. We now have the building department reports on page 29 to 43, along with the building permit tracker. Is there any questions of the planner in regards to this building permit? Councillor Peacock?
Thank you again. I had asked previously, and I still note that there were a couple of permits that were issued in April, and yet they're still outstanding. So I'm just wondering the status of those. And I don't know if it's something that the bylaw enforcement officer or something could go and have a look at. It's on the report number 9 and 12. I realize one is a demolition, but just the same. It should be followed up on. And with the end of the year coming, I'm just wondering how many outstanding permits we have from previous years that we're still waiting on completion of. The building department has an
I'm sure
idea.
that we will get a report from the planner when she does her annual report in
Okay.
regards to that.
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions on any of the building permits or the? Okay. The next item we have is the fire and emergency services. We have the minutes of the fire and emergency service meeting held on October the 15th for our information. Was there any questions of the fire chief in regards to those minutes? Councillor Peacock?
Thank you. Previously, when Conn College used our building and equipment, they were charged an hourly rate for their equipment. But with the RTC, they use our equipment and our facilities. Should a piece of equipment break while it's being used by the RTC for training purposes, are the repairs charged back to RTC or are they the responsibility of the fire department's budget?
They are charged back to the RTC general ledger account.
Okay. And one other question, I just noted last time around, we had a report from the treasurer with regard to the capital equipment or the budget in Q3. Very, very little has been spent under capital. And I'm just wondering, is it just slow to get inputted because you had a lot of capital expenses that you had anticipated purchasing, and I don't see many of them put through yet.
So most of the capital purchases for the fire department have just recently gone out for tender.
Okay. We will get them by the end of the year.
Okay.
Expect them to, yeah.
Yeah, thank
Councillor
you.
Viss?
Just one question. You do realize what you're asking here in hall duties. You want to add tire checks and tire pressure and air brake measuring monthly trucks. Have you checked the inside of the duals on your trucks and see how easy it is to get the reading on that?
So that was discussion points based on an article in a paper with the risk associated with tires. And we identified that we're not checking them to the level that we should be checking them. So it's still in discussion with respect to how we're going to check them and document that we're doing the checks.
Yeah, because you just can't just get in there and reach in there. It depends on their situation. The other one is interesting, your air brake. What are you measuring? How long it takes to bring it up to the 120 or what are you measuring here?
No, I think that's with reference to the stroke on the brake pods, which
Okay,
technically are supposed to be checked at every
okay.
pre-trip.
As long as you have, but when I looked at that, that's a very difficult things to check sometimes, you know, so be careful before you're asking people to do something that they don't have the required tool to do the proper testing. That's all I'm
So
saying.
it's a legal requirement to do these tests,
Okay.
though, the checks.
fine. Just a concern I had there. That's all I have. Thank you.
Further questions on minutes? Okay, is there any other questions from the fire department or fire chief? The fire chief have anything new or further to bring to us?
Not at this time, no.
Okay, thank you. The next item we have is the 25th Side Road Speed Reduction Request. There was a request from a resident or non-resident in regards to changing the speed limit on the 25th Side Road between Roslyn Road and Arthur Street. And we have a resolution here. It's moved and seconded that that will stay as it is. Any questions? It has been moved and seconded. It's open for discussion. Councillor Kamphoff?
If we're not changing anything, why are we doing a resolution or just to say that we looked at it? Is that the
I think
intent
just
here?
to answer the request or concern of the person.
Okay.
Any other questions? So the resolution's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Then we have the Roma 2025 conference, which takes place at the end of January, and they are asking for submission of the delegations we would like to attend. We have, it's blank, but we do have what we have asked in the previous years. And again, we ask the permission of council that if there is ones that we think of between now and the end of November or the deadline to submit, that we have your permission to do so. We have a resolution that's been moved and seconded. And if you have any ones that you would like to put in now, please let the CAO know. Yes. Councillor Calvert?
It's the same one as before where we're paying. If you look at all these reports, we're either in the top 2 or 3 and every one of these reports that we pay the most of all these.
Small
all these,
municipalities.
yeah,
That's the ONPF funding.
Yep.
And I'm sure that will come back up again.
mhm.
Anything else special that was not on the list or in the report that you would like to be added? Mr. Kamphoff?
Nothing specific to add, but what is typically the deadline that we have to get this information?
That's the deadline. I remember reading it.
It's November 27th.
So we do have a little bit of time. If you come across something, please let the CAO know. Councillor Peacock?
Thank you. Just wondering if there has ever been any consideration in the past with regard to the intersection at the corner of Town Line and 102. The sight lines aren't that good. And I know there's a rock cut on the north side. There have been a number of accidents right in that area. And so just wondered if it was something that could be considered at all.
We can certainly add it to the list for the MTO, certainly.
Thank you.
Yes. Councillor Viss?
Yeah, so, you know, I think you've done an excellent job, but sitting here, there's a lot of information that certainly needs some work done on behalf of the province on, but do they get this in advance so they can look at it?
Yes.
Okay, because then hopefully they're gonna have some kind of an answer for you folks when you're sitting there,
Right.
because there's nothing more frustrating than say, well, we'll look into it.
Yeah.
Hello, we just went to Toronto, so.
Yeah, no, they get this as well as MPP Holland requests all of the copies. Oops, somebody's
Not mine.
singing there, but MPP Holland also requests a copy of all of these so that he.
Oh, thank you.
Because
So
he's at most of those meetings with us.
hopefully then
What is
we'll
the system?
get some answers to you folks. Thank you very much, but job well done, and I guess the CEO did that, and whoever.
Yeah, these are the
whoever,
ones
all
we
the
did
staff,
last time,
That's
so.
well done. A lot of good information for them, and that hopefully will help us at the end of the day.
And we're also going to add the permit for, did you get the permit yet for the pit? No, that's going to be added. I wrote that on my list. Because that's been taken, how many years now? 3 years. It was approved and we still don't have the permit. I'm also requesting a date when they're putting out the RFP for this lights, because it's still not out, is it? Yeah. So anything, anyone else would like, and if you think of something in the next week, please let the CAO know. Because we'll be sending it in at the end of February. So we have a resolution, it's moved and seconded. All in favor, opposed, carried. We now have the resolution in regards to the Ontario Deposit Return Program that we had to ask them to bring forward. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, opposed, carried. And we have the IRCC Post-Graduation Work Permit Program. And the NOMA Resolution 2024-35 Forced Operations / Employment in Ontario. Those are two items that are in our package for us to read, communications. And then for information only, we have the Thunder Bay District Social Services Area Administration Board newsletter. A message from Chief Darcy Fleury, the TBPS / the Shift, that's the Thunder Bay Police Services publication, Enbridge Gas Inc. Yes,
Just before you.
yes.
Just before you leave that, was interesting. It says this email and any files transmitted with this are confidential, intended solely for the use of the TBPS. It's out in public. There's nothing, I don't understand why people couldn't have, but why is that flying in?
That is just something that they have in every single email.
It states that we can't have it out in public. It just didn't make any sense to me. I read through that. So what's the secret here? Okay, just a comment.
I know. And then we have the Green and Inclusive Community Buildings Program. So any comments, any of these? Yes. That was a rate increase that they're telling us it's going to happen. Oh, that's for natural gas. If you don't have it, then there'll be a rate increase for propane. And one follows the other. One does follow the other. Okay, any new business? Councillor Peacock?
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the volunteers who tended to the military plot at the Stanley Hill Cemetery. And earlier in the year, we had a comment made. I think you were going to arrange to get a new wreath from the municipality for the Legion. Were
It's
you able to
already,
get one
we got one.
Okay.
I used it on
on Sundays?
service.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect.
They didn't
Uh,
even charge us for our name.
There you go. And the fire chief wasn't at the last meeting, but belated condolences to the Elchuk family and our fire and EFR team. Thank you.
Councillor Campoff? No? Councillor Calvert?
Yeah, I just gotta, just when you go to the cemetery or something, sometimes when you go there, there's a like a funeral going on or something. I wonder if we could have a sign or something just saying that at the entrance there that there's one in progress, just one you can just stick, if that would be possible to the director. Just
Just so you're not
to let them
driving
know
into
so
it.
nobody's,
Yeah.
thank you.
Councillor Viss? Not a thing. I did get an email and I think it was sent to myself, but I do think that I sent it to everybody. I'm not sure. From this lady on Hawko Road in regards to an autistic child. I'm not sure if I forwarded, I thought I forwarded it at least to administration. And she is asking for a sign that indicates there is an autistic child in the neighborhood. You know, it has been done in other locations because they may come out on the road or whatever, and they're not knowing where they're exactly doing. So I just wonder if administration could take a look at that for our next meeting or the meeting after that, please. That's all I have. Anything new from the administration? No? Okay, so we'll have a resolution moved and seconded to resolve to close session, the time being 5:34 p.m. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. We will take a 5-minute break before we go to the in-camera meeting. We have a resolution moved in second to reconvene the council meeting, the time being 6:27 PM. We have a resolution moved and seconded that the closed, all in favor? We have a resolution moved and seconded that the closed session minutes held on October the 30th be approved as submitted. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. We have a resolution moved and seconded confirming bylaw in regards to the meeting held this evening. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And we have a resolution moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting of this evening at 6:28 PM. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much.